Next is the government segment, of which I host, and my guest is returning guest Marc Gronich. Marc is the president of Statewide News Service. He's going to be talking about the past and the present and the future of the New York State Legislature. Let's watch this one. And today we're going to have a special guest for our government segment, Marc Gronich. Marc is the president of Statewide News Service, and we want to wish you a Happy New Year. Here we are in 2013. Marc, welcome.
Well, Happy New Year, Nick.
Thank you.
I wish you all the best of success in the new year.
And you as well. And you're not a stranger to us. You're a return frequent flyer.
That's right.
And we hope to see more of you on Impact. We appreciate you being here.
I'm looking forward to it.
Great. You're going to talk about the New York State Legislature, particularly the Senate, where we've been and where we're going now that it's 2013. Maybe we could start with the redistricting, what happened prior to the elections, and then we'll go into the results.
Well, what happened basically with the redistricting was that the senators, the Senate Republicans created an extra district to sort of give their members an extra edge, and that almost didn't work out. I'm not sure if even at this date that we even know how things are going to work out.
Yes.
George Amador was running against Cecilia Kachik,
Yes.
and both declared victory.
Yes.
And both were senator-elect in
Yes.
their individual conference.
Yes.
So maybe the district is fortunate. They got two people who are equally going to be co-senators. No, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen.
No. But it seems that George Amador is currently ahead by 37 votes.
At this point in time?
37 votes.
Wow.
That's not the closest ever.
It's not?
No.
What was, do you know?
David Starobin won last year by 16 votes, and Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who's now the new Democratic leader, when she first ran 10 years ago or so, she won by 18. She lost the first time by 18 votes, and then she ran again and won by a large margin.
That's amazing.
But the first time, every vote counts.
Yes.
That's what that means.
Yes.
Everyone has to get out there and vote, and no one can say, my vote doesn't count.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, well, even in the presidential elections recently, I mean, the popular vote, the Bush Gore race and the recent race and the popular vote. I mean, those are huge numbers. And it proves that
but you know what's interesting
saying
about Al Gore and Bush, that the race there in 2000,
What's that?
Was that if Al Gore carried his home state of Tennessee, Florida wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Those 3 electoral college votes from Tennessee would have
put him over?
And he lost his home state.
Oh, jeez.
So for whatever happens with Florida and all the controversy, they talk about the Chads and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it.
You don't buy into that. It's just the electoral votes and his.
Someone said to me, "Why do you think he lost?" I said, "Because the people who know you the best like you the least."
Well, they know you better.
Happened,
well,
it happened with Ed Koch when he ran against Mario Cuomo, and Mario Cuomo won.
Yeah.
It happened with Al Gore. It happens.
Yeah.
It happens in more than just politics. It happens in religion. It happens in other segments of our society. The people who know you the best like you the least.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Wow.
And that's my analysis of that.
That's a good analysis. Well, we could do a whole show on that, the Electoral College and, voting patterns and habits and results.
And
maybe we will.
And December 19th, I guess it was, or thereabouts, 17th? Anyway, we had the Electoral College vote in mid-December.
Yeah.
So, all the Democrats got together in the Senate chamber, and they all cast their ballots for Barack Obama. Yeah. And that's when we elected a president.
That's when the president was elected.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to have to do that one day.
Okay.
We'll get into that. But let's go back to the New York State Senate. And before the show, we were talking, you gave some interesting, I call them factoids, but statistics or some information a lot of people aren't aware of. Maybe you could share that with our audience, about the balance and the characteristics of the Senate.
There are a lot of people who keep talking about term limits because they like to hear the phrase term limits.
Yes.
But when you look at the makeup of the state Senate and the state Assembly, you need some institutional memory and you need some fresh blood.
Yes.
And there seems to be that balance. 14% of the incoming senators of the New York State Senate are freshman senators. 14% of the body. There are 63 seats in the New York State Senate, and there are going to be 9 new members.
Well, that's a good
There are going to be
infusion.
6 Democrats and 3 Republicans who are going to be freshmen. And there are also the Democrat in the Senate serves 7.2 years, and the average Republican in the Senate serves 13 years on average. So the senators in total serve 10 years on average. A decade. That's really all they do. Now, you got some of the longer tenured folks like the Hugh Farleys and the Ken Lavals and the Bill Larkins, you know, from around the state. But that's the institutional memory. That's what you sort of need those folks there to guide the freshmen and the younger. That's
true. You know, even in local government, I recognize that you can't throw all the bums out at once and have a brand new, you know, unknowledgeable, you know, body. You need this this propagation and the transition. So the institutional knowledge is very important.
And keep in mind that there are 26 members of the state Senate. Have been serving more than 10 years. 37 members of the state Senate are serving fewer than 10 years.
Fewer than 10 years. So
37 to 26. So more than half of the legislature is there for less than a decade.
So what's the big argument about term limits? People say 3 terms, it's 12 years, whatever. I mean,
self-cleansing.
It's sort of a fluffy, you know, argument, isn't it?
It is.
That's the way it appears.
And in the state assembly, for a moment, I'll tell you that there are 33 members over the age of 65, 150 member body. Okay?
Yes, New York State Assembly. Yes.
In the state assembly. 33 members are over the age of 65.
Yes.
63 assembly members are between 50 and 65 years old, and 53 members are under 50. The youngest one being 25.
25 years old.
25 years old. Just got elected down in Orange County.
Orange County? Oh, geez.
And he's coming up here. Is going to be like gangbusters. Now, he's not the youngest ever to be elected to the assembly. He's close.
Yes.
But there's one of the longest tenured members now, Dick Gottfried.
Yes.
Has been there since he was 23.
23. That's
but
a young age.
And that's like, he's there forever. He just wants to be there. He doesn't want to move on. And he just felt like and he's done a lot of good in terms of the health care and the anti-smoking, Clean Indoor Air Act. I mean, he's had some major. Now, keep in mind that it takes about 7 years to get a major piece of legislation passed in the legislature. It takes about 7 years. So when you talk about people serving around a decade, you know, they got some major piece of legislation done. They avoided the pitfalls of redistricting. And they survived enough to carry on and move on to another phase of their life.
Well, let's talk about some of those institutional members. Like locally, Senator Hugh Farley is 44th Senate District, I believe.
He's the second longest tenured member in the state Senate.
And Senator Farley's in his early 80s now, around 80 or somewhere.
He's 80.
80.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Hugh, who's the
he's 80 years old.
80 years old. And you've got all the statistics, which is great. Go ahead.
Bill Larkin from Orange County.
He's the senior guy?
He's the senior guy. He's 84.
84. God bless him.
And he's been in office for 23 years, since 1990. But he was in the assembly before that.
Right.
So, you know, he's been in the legislature
so many years in the assembly.
A lot of years.
Yeah. So
he's been, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's a natural progression.
But, you know, the average age of the Democrats in the state Senate is 53 years old. The average age of a Republican in the state Senate is 58 years old. So the average age of the senators is 55.
Mid-50s.
Mid-50s.
Yeah.
But everyone has this impression that the senators are really old folk.
Well, that's the old, you see the cartoons, the caricatures, and, you know, the late night shows. I mean, that's the perception, but
it's not reality.
It's not real.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I wanted. I mean, there are people in their 20s who say 55 is old. Okay.
Yes.
And it's a matter of perspective of what you feel old is. But when we're in our own mid-50s, we don't feel it's old.
Right. One of my favorite sayings, Mark, and we're visiting with Marc Gronich, president of Statewide News Service, and we're talking about the new year and the New York State Legislature. We're discussing the Senate right now. But Johnny Carson once said, "Old is 15 years older than you are."
That's right.
And I love that.
Probably
because
right.
Everybody that gives that a thought says, yeah, you know, you're right. What about females? I mean, is there a balance of males and females? I mean, I don't know if you have any statistics today, but
you know, in the Senate, there's probably 4 or 5 women senators, and in the Democratic side, there's probably 4 or 5 women, and there's a woman who just, for the first time, history is being made this year, in that Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins is the first woman to head up a conference.
Oh, I see.
She was she ousted John Sampson, and Andrea Stewart-Cousins from Yonkers became the first woman to lead a legislative conference. She's also an African American, and she's also, you know, so we'll see what happens.
Well, that's a good first for
it's a good first for New York.
Yeah, that's good, and that's what we want. We want to see that.
So, and I got it.
Where's she from?
She's Yonkers, Westchester County.
Okay,
this is the 4th largest city, Yonkers.
Right. Yeah.
Another factoid.
Yeah, no. Good. Yeah, good.
And the
go Yankees.
But it's the first time that, in my memory, that we've had a leader of the Democratic Conference from outside the 5 boroughs. And that no one has brought up.
What else can we expect in 2013, or what are the changes in the state legislature?
Well, what's going to happen is that the Republicans and Democrats in the state Senate are so closely divided that there's a group of 5 independent Democrats that broke off 2 years ago. And they're going now, and actually it was 4 2 years ago. Now there's a 5th one that added this year.
Right.
And that group of 5 are going to align with the Republicans because they knew that if the Democrats were in control, in order for there to be any for there to be a productive session and any progress made, every one of those Democrats on the Senate conference there would have had to vote in lockstep, and that conference will not vote in lockstep. Already, one of the Democrats, Simcha Felder, newly elected, is now going to caucus in conference with the Republicans. Ruben Diaz is a conservative Democrat. He doesn't walk lockstep with the Democratic conference. There are others who will not walk lockstep with the rest of the conference. There would have been dysfunction. Now you have the independent, 5 Dems going over with the Republicans. It gives the Republicans cover. Because the 2 weeks you're going to have Dean Skelos leading. 2 weeks you're going to have Jeff Klein from the Independent Democratic Conference leading. And once you have that balance of power with the Republican conference, and you would have, let's say, 37 members in that majority conference, you have some cover for those Republicans who want to take a walk on an issue or want to vote against an issue. You could still get some things done, minimum wage, you know, campaign finance reform, because the Democrats will come along and then some of the Republicans will take a walk, and you'll still have that power sharing. So it's very smart for Jeff Klein to do this.
It is, and isn't that good for the taxpayers and for the legislative process? Well, it gives them a little more freedom to to act a little more independently and vote their consciences. Too.
I thought it was. You know, but the Democrats in the Senate, and I worked for that conference. For about 14, 15 months.
You did.
I worked there. I know these folks from the inside. And I'll tell you, they want the power. You know, for example, you know, Eric Adams from Brooklyn stood up his first few months in office and said, "Show me the money. I want a pay raise. Show me the money." Well, he knew what he was getting into when he ran for office. He knew it's an $80,000 a year salary. You know, if he didn't like it, he shouldn't have run for office. I think that's enough money. Especially when you talk about, you know, a 25-year-old in the assembly coming in for an $80,000 a year salary. You know, you got a lot of, you know, I think it's enough money. Quite frankly, they don't need a pay raise. But
that's a whole other issue.
That's a whole other issue.
Well, you've been giving us a lot of interesting scenarios.
So that's what's going to happen.
This is part 1, Mark, as we want to tell our audience with Marc Gronich, Statewide News Service. He's going to come back again another week, and we're going to talk more about the Assembly side, more of these issues, and more of these interesting inside factoids, I like to call them. You know,
Excellent.
Mark's a great researcher, and he's very, very experienced. in state government. He's been around
Thank
a
you.
long time, done a lot of great things, and it's a pleasure to know you. So I want you to come back if you
will,
would.
absolutely.
He's committing to it. You heard him.
I'm committed.
Marc Gronich is
I'm
coming back on Impact. We want to thank you for coming this week.
Thank you, Nick,
we'll
for
see you
having
next
me.
time for part
Yes,
2.
absolutely.
Happy New Year.
Hope everyone tunes in.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. You've been watching Impact. I'm Nick Barber, your host. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Proctors, bringing the best in arts, education, and entertainment.